this is Sasha here from the Little Duck Retreat, owner and creator of the Little Duck Retreat and thelittleduckretreat.com. Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about the 3 things to do when your dog gets injured, what the most important 3 things are, and talk about the first aid kit. What do you keep in your first aid kit and what I keep in my first aid kit for both my own personal pups and my guest pups that I take care of. So let's get started. First aid kit back here, as you can see, is all ready to go. I do want to let everyone know that I put together a PDF checklist. So besides watching the video, you can always download this PDF checklist. It is free. It's 2 pages of what I keep in my actual first aid kit, and also a handy dandy cheat sheet on what to do in the event that your pup does get hurt. So a couple things. First and foremost, if you are taking care of your pup that is injured, if it's severe, take them to a vet. That's what they're there for. If it's minor, you can go ahead and take care of a lot of the situations at home with these handy things behind me. So let's get started. We've got... Now, I do have a canine first aid kit that comes with its own handy dandy bag. That's the bag you'll see behind me. It's by Roughwear. And it did come with some of the basic gauzes and things like that that you would need. For the most part, I find that a lot of the first aid kits are kind of basic. And in order to take care of things at home, you'll want to make sure that you have some extra things. So here they are. First and foremost, one of my go-to things is definitely charcoal. Keep this on hand. Again, this is human type grade charcoal. These come in little handy capsules. The capsules you can either take apart, or you can go ahead and kind of mash them up and either mix them with water. They will stain whatever you put on, so just remember that the black powder will stain clothing or furniture or towels or anything like that. A lot of times what I'll do, if I suspect that someone has eaten something, if my girls, you know, one of my dogs, Haley, my Pomeranian, likes to chew on weird stuff. So if I find that she is having a weird stomach issue, I'll just detox her a little bit with some charcoal. I usually only use a half amount of charcoal of these capsules, and then I'll mix it with some eggs. Makes it really easy. She digests it quickly. Doesn't interfere with her digestion, doesn't interfere with her pooping, just kind of detox whatever she may have eaten. And it does help prevent any kind of tummy irritations or whatnot. Now, the other thing I like to have is Pedialyte. This is human child Pedialyte. It's flavorless. This I will go ahead and add to either their existing water, or I'll make a bouillon like I've mentioned in other videos, my chicken water, and I'll add just a little bit of this to help beef up the actual electrolytes within it. Now, on a side note to this, never give your dog sugar water or salt water. Pedialyte is balanced enough so it does not interfere with their pH. It actually helps replenish those electrolytes without causing any kind of imbalance. So if you think your dog is having some minor dehydration, get them water, get them chicken water, get them Pedialyte, but do not give them a sugar water or a salt water. That will screw up their pH and could actually put them into a shock scenario. So don't do that. Couple of the things I like to keep on hand is basically your average table salt. Now, I don't give this to dogs to digest. If I find the dog has an abrasion or a bee sting or things like that, if they've cut themselves on something, I'll do a mild salt soak, which you'll also is referred to as like a saline kind of soak, if you've ever heard of that. So pretty much I take like a tablespoon of salt, I put it in warm water, I let it just dissolve, and then I will either apply it via a towel to the actual abrasion, or I will like stick a foot or a tail just in a little bowl of soak, so that it can just kind of, again, soak and kind of draw out any kind of bacteria that may have gotten in there before I actually clean it up and bandage it up. The next thing I like to keep on hand is mineral oil. Mineral oil is great for digestive issues, or again, if they're eating something that's bothering their stomach. If you see your dog eating a lot of grass, that's an indicator that they need to help with some digestion. Or if your cat, especially in the spring and summer months, if they're doing a lot of vomiting, you can always give them just a little touch of mineral oil right on the front paws. They hate it, but they will lick it up, and it will help in their digestion. The next thing I like to go for is coconut oil. Coconut oil they can lick off. This is really good if your dog has been outside and has like a little bit of a sunburn, especially on the tips of the ears. If they get the dry nose scenario where their nose gets all crusty, you can put some coconut oil on there. In the winter months, if your dog is outside doing a lot of running around, you can put it on their pads so that they prevent cracking. And again, they can lick that off without any complication. The next one is petroleum jelly. This one I do keep on hand for guests, specifically if you have a pug or a dog with any of the bulbular eyes. If you've ever had a pup that has had an eye pop out of the socket, one of the fastest things you can do to prevent any kind of damage is basically grab a cloth, a soft cloth, and a bandage and wrap it gently on the eye with petroleum jelly, and then get them to the vet as fast as you possibly can. But the actual petroleum jelly will prevent the eye from drying out. Even if it's out of the eye socket, it'll help from dry out, and then it will actually cause less damage while you're transporting to the vet. The next thing I like to do is, this is an ear serum, and I'll put that up. You can see it. This is my favorite ear infection medication. Now, what I do for ear infections, if I see that my dog is starting to get kind of a scratchy ear, if I smell something a little funny in the ears, I'll put in coconut oil. And I'll just use a little dropper and drop a couple drops of coconut oil, and then I'll rub the back of the ear to let that kind of sink down into the actual ear canal. But if you have a dog with chronic ear infections that just don't stop, that go away and then come right back, this is my go-to medication. This has helped with my Chihuahua. My Chihuahua has horrible allergies, and one of the first responses that she has to negatively to food and whatnot is an immediate ear infection, and it gets horribly pussy and swollen. And this helps with otitis, which is that inner ear swelling. So that's my go-to one there. Another thing that I keep is hydrogen peroxide. Now, hydrogen peroxide can be used as a couple different things. Number one, if you use it as a topical agent, it can scar. So if you have an abrasion or a cut on like a dog with thin skin, that spot may scar from the actual hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide by itself doesn't do any kind of the bubbling or whatnot. If added with baking soda, it's a wonderful disinfectant, but it does basically cause sort of a foaming type effect. I have used hydrogen peroxide both topical and in the mouth for teeth, and just recently I used it on my Italian Greyhound to help with some poisoning issues that she was having, and so it did help clean up some gum issues that she was having. That was fantastic. I'll put the link below on how to naturally heal from blood poisoning from tooth decay and whatnot in the link. But this is fantastic. So if you have a dog that does have a deep cut and you're not able to get to a vet right away, hydrogen peroxide is fantastic because it will help sort of make the platelets in the blood sort of almost create a very fast scab and stop the bleeding, and then apply light pressure and get your dog to a vet. With minor like abrasions, like they've bumped themselves on a rock or something like that, maybe a little bit sharp, hydrogen peroxide is definitely a useful tool. For the most part with dogs, you know, you can use bandages. I find bandages are not great with dogs just because they will chew on them, chronically lick them, and just basically end up pulling them off. And as the healing happens underneath, it'll just basically mess up any kind of healing that they've got. So for the most part, I find that animals, once the wound is cleaned, then it can just be left alone, unless it's deep enough that it does need either some kind of stitches or something has to be removed, a foreign debris needs to be removed from that actual cut, or a piercing type of wound where something's actually gets lodged within the skin. Definitely go to your vet for those kind of situations, unless you've been certified in canine CPR and first aid, which I have, but many of those situations you'll want to just go to a vet right away. The other couple things that I keep on hand are a variety of scissors, just because these are fantastic, especially if something is sticking out of the skin, or if you find that, let's say, even a rose bush thorn gets stuck in a paw or on the skin. These will help clear that out. Of course, tweezers are very important to keep on hand. And then this is my syringe that I use. It does have a curve to it. This is nice for either flushing things out of the mouth. It can be used towards the eye. It can be used to flush the ear, or put some coconut oil or whatnot drops in there. The next thing I would recommend, if your dog does have any kind of sting or bug bite, is to, once the wound is cleaned, to basically put a circle around it. So this is a Sharpie, just a black standard Sharpie you can get anywhere. And then what I do, especially in a bee sting or a bug bite, like a centipede's bite, and they leave a venom inside. So you basically just want to draw a circle around the actual affected area, not big enough that it's huge, but around the spot where the tissue looks different. So, so in a bite or sting scenario, there's going to be some inflamed red tissue. Whatever that spot is in its weird shape, draw, basically trace the space, and that way it's a great indicator that if the spot starts to spread, you know exactly where it originated from. The vet will know exactly where it originated from. And that way you'll know, especially 2 days later or so, when people start to think, gosh, is it bigger? Is it getting better? Is it worse? You'll know exactly what's going on because you trace the space and you can see, oh, it's getting lower, or it is actually getting worse, especially if it's raising higher or if it's spreading on the skin. You'll immediately want to go to a vet for that. It might need to be drained, or it might need something that's more invasive. There may be actually something inside the skin that needs to be removed. Couple of things that I don't have on my list that I love keeping on hand. Oh, I forgot about the Neosporin. So this is child Neosporin. This is something that I like the foamy version just because it goes on super, super easy. You can rub it on, and that's a really fast way to clean a wound. For most wounds, you're just going to use water, warm water. You can use warm water with salt. You can use warm water by itself. I would shy away from using any kind of heat or ice on your pet. Again, their temperature, their core temperature is a little bit different from ours, and depending upon the breed of your dog, they may not be able to manage that temperature change, and cats certainly do a really good job of managing their own hemoglobin. So you shouldn't have to adjust them in any way. So unlike a person, you do not need to apply heat or ice to a wound of any kind. So if you think that your dog or your cat or your pet needs something more extreme like that, I would go and seek the advice of a vet. But in the event that they have a bruise or a scratch, just let them kind of relax and stay calm instead of doing any kind of ice or anything like that. The next thing you can do, and this isn't a general one that's on my list, but this is one that I love to keep on hand anyway, is baking soda. So baking soda is fantastic. It can be used basically just interchangeably with the salt bath, so you can use a baking soda bath instead. Another tablespoon of baking soda, and then just a nice mild lukewarm water bath can really help ease any kind of irritants that the dog's skin may be feeling, or your cat's skin. For the most part, your naked dogs, like your Italian Greyhounds, your Chihuahuas, Jack Russell Terriers and things like that, where they have the really short coat, and I usually call them naked dogs. Those dogs are fantastic. You know kind of exactly where everything is on their body, and you can kind of see any kind of bumps or bruises that are occurring. For your furrier dogs, you're going to want to make sure that if they do have an injury, that they're not getting any kind of cyst-like situations happening. A cyst is basically just a pool or pocket of blood that's kind of raised and kind of gets stuck. It's a little bit deeper than a bruise. And then pretty much anything that you can get on there to help aid in that. Naturally, you can use things like, if your dog won't lick it off, you can use mint, or you can use baking soda or salt baths to help draw out any kind of toxins while it's kind of resettling. If it is a cyst type scenario, cysts can take anywhere from, you know, a couple weeks to a couple months, or 6 months to a year to actually go away completely. Just have your vet monitor it. As long as they're not doing anything to it, like trying to itch it or bite it off, then it should be fine. But again, just with your furrier dogs, you want to kind of feel them over and make sure nothing else is occurring around any kind of wound. And then you'll want to, now depending upon the situation, I like to also keep on hand Benadryl. So Benadryl is, you can give your dogs Benadryl. If you have a dog that, especially my Italian Greyhound in particular, every single year gets stung by a bee, she gets literally the inflamed face that kind of just goes up, and it looks like she was stung by 10 bees, but it's just one. And so I'll give her 1 capsule of Benadryl. Now Benadryl is one of those things where you're going to want to monitor if you do administer any Benadryl. In my case, I am certified in canine CPR and first aid, and so, and with the experience of my Italian Greyhound, she does it often enough that I know exactly what her symptoms and signs are for that. Now, Benadryl will remove those symptoms and signs. So your dog will appear to have been totally fine, and the problem will be resolved if you give them Benadryl. However, usually about 6 to 12 hours later, the symptoms can reoccur. So it doesn't mean that they are actually having more problems with it. It just means you stop the the response and temporarily, and now that your dog is now going, or your pet is now going through the response again. So what I like to do is pretty much I give them just a small amount. So I'll give them half a capsule of a gel cap, and that's just enough to kind of take away any swelling, but it doesn't stop the symptoms completely. And then I can monitor how they're progressing naturally. So if a dog does have a situation where they're not progressing positively, that's where you pretty much want to take them to the vet. If, you know, in a 6 to 12 hour time frame, they have a little bit more swelling and then it seems to be going down, then you're totally fine. Most of the time, you just want your pup to rest after they've had an injury, and just kind of keep them calm, keep them indoors so they don't get excited and want to play or kind of run around. Don't take them on a walk, don't take them to any kind of dog park, and then pretty much just let them kind of just sit next to you and just monitor how their progression is going. Most dogs are going to recover from essentially almost all things quickly. So dogs don't like to be in a situation, they don't like to show that they're progressing negatively. So you will want to monitor what they're doing. However, again, most bumps, bruises, grazes, bee stings, bug bites, you know, within about a day, they should totally be fine. So what to do? You're going to want to, and I wrote a little easy thing for anyone to download, you're going to clean it, then you are going to treat it, and then you're going to protect it. Now, cleaning, again, cleaning a wound is basically you're going to just wash it off. Any kind of washing is going to be successful. So the better you can wash, the more success you'll have. And that washing, again, can be with a salt type bath. It can be with a baking soda bath. It can just be with lukewarm water. You can use a topical agent like a Neosporin, but you're just going to want to wash it. The next thing is you're going to treat it. Now, that is where the topical agent does come in handy. You can also use the petroleum jelly if it's something like a burn or a bee sting. You can use oil if it is something where they're having kind of a reaction to, let's say, a plant or a bug bite. Or you can also go ahead and just use, do I have it on me? I don't have it on me right now, but you can use like an olive oil or anything like that that will help aid in any of the stinging type feelings. So now the thing with oils is they will absorb. So if it's a burn scenario, you don't want to use any form of oil because it will actually trap that heat in and make it worse. So oils are great for things like bites, but not good for bee stings or burns, like a sunburn. So if you went to, let's say, an outing in the summer and your dog was outside all day with you and they've got burned ear tips or a burned nose, don't use an oil necessarily. Try to use something else or just wet it down so it cools. And the last thing I'm going to say is with the first aid kit, one of the things I did do is I added a few extra cool things to the website. So you'll see behind me the pet binder. So the pet binder is totally free. It's super important. I firmly believe that everyone should have a pet binder just because I see it all the time with my clients. If they don't have access to their documents, they pretty much don't know where they are. So I'm the same way. If I don't keep them all together, then they become scattered and I don't know where they are. So I think everyone should have one. And then I'll link the video down below to the pet binder video. And again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send them along. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also feel free to join our private Facebook group called I Speak Dog Training Club, where we talk about health and tips and training techniques to help get you a happy home with your pet. So again, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.